So I'm with Margaret today from Down Marquees. They're based in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Thanks again for jumping on the call.
No problem.
It would be good if you can just introduce yourself a little bit, just explain what Down specializes in terms of equipment, but also the type of events that you guys do.
Sure. So we are over 40 years in the marquee and events hire industry. And we have everything from marquees to furniture, dance floor, stages, generators, toilets. And we've just started a new venture called the Event Cup, the reusable plastic scheme in Belfast. So we have a lot going on. I am a senior project manager here at Down Marquees, have been for almost 6 years, and I look after mostly the marquee and furniture hire. We would be very heavily involved in a lot of events in and around Belfast City Council, and Balmoral Show. We do a lot of private events, corporate and sporting events, and we also travel. We have an orangery structure that we travel to the mainland with and do a lot of large weddings in the south of Ireland. And we have a bamboo structure as well as all the A-frame and the clear span marquees. So we have a wide range of kit, a lot of stock, and about 35 staff.
What's the new Event Cup business? I haven't heard that yet.
So it's to do away with the small, squishy plastic cups that you get in a bar at a concert and things.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a new reusable cup program where if you were to go to a concert or an ice hockey match or football or something, you get given a reusable cup. And when you take it back, you pay an extra £1 levy on your drink.
Oh, yeah.
And when you take it back, then you get your £1 back, or you get a clean cup and a refill.
Awesome.
And it just to try and minimize and reduce the amount of plastics.
Single use. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I haven't seen your bamboo structure. I've seen the orangery, that metal black one, right? That one's awesome. What's the bamboo one?
The bamboo one looks a little bit like a traditional tent.
Okay.
But it has huge, big bamboo stanchions in the middle of it. And it ranges, it's the same kind of champagne covers that the traditional tents have, but we have the steel subfloor with the integrated wooden floorboards. And so there's no matting, there's nothing like that with it. And it's kind of a more secure structure. And it ranges from 15 by 15, 15 by 25, and 15 by 35. And it's actually a really popular alternative for wedding marquees this year.
Is it quite high end with the metal floor?
Yes.
And the pole tents? Yeah. Sounds it.
Yeah.
Epic. I don't know if this question's going to work for you, because I think when you started, Down were already using Marquitech, but I could be wrong. So ignore that if I am wrong. But before Marquitech, was there any like major challenges that made the business look into our software?
Yeah, so when I started in 2019, everything was very heavily paper-based.
Yeah.
And we absolutely needed to move away from that. So the first thing that I asked for is if we could get some sort of dashboard or some sort of software that's relatively live and that I can access from anywhere, because obviously we travel. You know, I'm only occasionally in the office, and I needed something that was online, everyone could access and see what was going on at any one time. And it didn't involve printing out pieces of paper and putting them in folders on the wall or any of that sort of stuff. Cut all that out. And that's then when we came across Marquitech and saw it, liked it, and ran with it.
Epic. Yeah, I do remember now you're saying that, when you first called up, or maybe we called up, and then you were super obviously not cloud-based and using loads of different documents, right? Spreadsheets, Word docs, PDFs. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So since 2019, what are the top features that you guys use? You can maybe like 3 top features that you guys would use on the system.
I think whenever I started, there was a few KPIs that were set. And one of those was the response time to customers. Before, we were doing all of our quotes on an Excel spreadsheet, and I hated it because the room for human error on an Excel sheet is massive. Yeah. Because you're inputting so much data by yourself. So that had to go initially. And we liked the idea that I can get on the tablet or on my phone or on my laptop from wherever I am and very quickly respond to a customer with a price, rather than having to make a note of it and then go home that night and set up the laptop and open up Excel and generate this whole big blurb. I could instantly or almost instantly respond to a client. They could see it straight away on their phone. We like the layout of the quotes. You know, there's photographs, there's images. They can hover over the little blue symbol and see what a Chivari chair looks like. It's all kind of there. And I think in today's day and age, everything's so competitive and so instant. People want an answer now,
Mm.
or like they've lost all concentration and they're looking at something else. No, they're taking too long. We'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think there's a stat where it's something like 85% of, I could be slightly wrong on that percent, but it's something like 85% of customers will go to the first company that gets back to them. So there's a
Yes.
huge correlation between how quick you are at quoting and how likely that customer is going to book with you.
Yeah.
And like you say, especially nowadays when everything's online, everything's instant.
Yeah.
The rental quote should be the same.
Absolutely. And then if it did convert into a sale, then I would have to go back to that Excel sheet and I would have to take all the price out and create my own kind of load list to give to the guys from that. This was so labor intensive. I didn't have time for this. So I was, you know, everything was backing up behind me, just trying to get this one job off the ground. We needed something that did it all for me and I could, you know, kind of manage a project rather than doing all this basic admin stuff.
So quoting, load lists, is there one more that you guys use quite a lot?
The dashboard, the main kind of calendar dashboard. Anybody can jump on at any time and see, you know, what's confirmed, where we're going to next, what's happening on the calendar. And it doesn't involve ringing around everybody and checking in. And, you know, we can all see what kit's available, where it's going to. It's just there. You know, we don't need to be constantly in contact with one another.
Yep. So would you say the biggest time-saving aspect that, or the time-saving benefits that you guys have is just streamlining those main processes within the rental business, from like how like the quote makes the invoice, then at the same time the load list is getting done in the background, same time the stock's being managed. So all of those processes are just streamlined into one tool. So is that where you probably find most of your time-saving benefits from?
Absolutely. And also the way you can gauge whether a quote or an inquiry is either like high level, very high, medium, I can then, you know, delegate that to someone else in the team and say, look, I'm busy this week, but there's a couple of highs and very highs on my dashboard at the minute. Would you mind doing a few follow-up calls there and see? Whereas before, those customers were either getting dropped off or I was having to go back through and remind myself, what did I quote that? Who was that for? Is that going to happen? That's been a game changer as well, because then I can delegate that out, pull off a report, delegate that out, and someone else can do the crappy ring rounds.
Yeah, and because you can get so many time wasters, can't you, in rental? Like, wanting a quote for nothing, just getting prices, and it's hard to know who to follow up with, who's a good lead or who's a time waster. And by having that sales cycle with the sort of CRM features, it helps you just target people who are much more likely to book.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so is there any specific examples of how Marquees helped you secure a booking faster or win maybe new clients that you might not have otherwise got?
Yes, there is a specific example. I had to go in for a high-end wedding this year, and I was aware of the competitors that I was going up against. And Marquee Tech allowed me to get the quote across before I'd even left the client's driveway. So as we were chatting, I was able to, there was someone else with me that was driving, and I was able to get a lot of this done on my phone with the images of the tables. Everything was all on there. So as we were pulling out through their gates, the customer had a copy of my quotation and my phone number, like, let's go, let's chat, before the other competitors have even got into their car and driven off.
Yeah, that's pretty epic.
Yeah. And I knew at the time I needed to act fast because I knew who I was up against.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get my figures in front of this client before anyone else did. And it worked. We got it.
Yeah. And realistically, if those other people or other companies, I should say, if they're not using Marquees, they're probably sending a PDF. They might even be sending just a quote in an email, which isn't good enough nowadays. And they're not, that customer's not going to be getting like digital quotes from those companies, like you say, that have images on. You can like sign for T's and C's, you can upsell items.
Like request a site visit. You know, I could send off a quotation for something I don't think is going to materialize into anything, and then I get a request for a site visit. So before I go and get in the van, I'll go and ring them and see how serious they are.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, if they've hit that button, they are serious about wanting
Mm.
to see me and to discuss what they can put on their property, and it helps. It's a great help.
Yeah, they're following up with themselves rather than
Yeah.
you having to chase them, which is nice. Yeah. Is there any examples or maybe not examples, but just in general, can you say the system is helping reduce expensive mistakes?
Absolutely. Because if we've already uploaded the price for something, then we're not, the decimal place might not be in the wrong place, like it would be in Excel. Or
Yeah.
if you're speeding through loads of quotes on Excel or on email, you're not checking 9 times out of 10, and your figures, you might have missed something whenever you're doing your sum at the end of your spreadsheet or whatever. Whereas with the confidence that Marquee Tech is doing it all for me, and I'm just inputting the quantities of things, and maybe reordering the quote,
Yeah.
it's helping out massively. So then it's not costing us down the line whenever we've said that a generator is only £3.50.
Yeah.
Because we put the decimal place in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And with the so one thing, and we were kind of talking about this before we started doing this call, but one thing we're trying to do is connect the office and the on-site teams a bit more within the
Yeah.
system, and there are lots of ways you can do that on Marquee Tech already, but we're always just trying to make it better. So have you felt that those two teams, whether it's the office and the on-site crew, do you feel like they're a bit more collaborative and that communication streamlined since being on Marquee Tech?
Yeah, because everything's updated live. So if we are, say, at Balmoral Show for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, and the client comes over to see the bare shell of their marquee, and they've decided that they don't want blue carpet, they want grey carpet, and they want additional tables, I'm updating this constantly live on my phone or from the laptop on site. And then the guys in the office are aware that, there's things are changing, things are happening, and, invoices may be different, or pro formas might change or whatever. And it's just working. It means that I'm not having to ring in and, Tracy's not available at the minute, ring back later. And then I'm forgetting to put it on an email to her and things get missed. It's all live. It's all current.
Yeah. Awesome. What do your customers think of Marquee Tech, like the quotes, for example?
There was actually a very prominent event organizer, let's call him, actually went out of his way to ring me one day and was like, Margaret, I really like this quoting process. Now he's worked with this company for over 20 years, and he went out of his way to ring me to say, I am loving these new quotes. This is fantastic. And that was great. That was great to hear, because you don't really hear feedback from customers. They don't care what it looks like as long as they get it. Whereas he rang back and he was like, have I lost you?
Sorry, Margaret, I just lost you in the last 10 seconds. The last thing I heard was he rang back, and then it went out for a sec.
Oh, he rang back to say that he liked the layout of the quote. He liked how it was presented. He liked how, you can see everything. It's all there. You can see your images and whatever else is laid out in front of you. They don't need anything else. And he really, really liked it. He thought it was the way forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but times are changing, and especially, everyone now is on Instagram, and people who are getting married, but even like corporate clients, all events now is people who kind of are from the Instagram sort of generation. They want stuff to be online. They want it to look pretty. They want to be able to click on images. And like I said earlier, like old school PDFs, emails, sending a price in a text, it's just not enough nowadays, especially when it's like a 10 grand plus booking. It's like, they want to see something good. Yeah. Okay, two more questions. So in terms of tangible results, so whether it's more profit, more revenue, more time, free time, can you give some sort of idea on like the return you've got from using Marquee Tech?
I think mostly it's the time saving.
Yeah.
More than anything, because as you know, the events industry is always up and down. So I can't put a measure or a metric on, it's made us so much more profitable, because that's the way this industry kind of is. But it's definitely made us a lot more time savvy. I have more time because I'm not having to check over someone else's quote before they send it out, or I'm confident in the information that we've put on Marquee Tech is providing us with the most competitive advantage. So I'm happy to send off the quote, and then I can go and spend a little longer with the client, walking through their plans. I'm not rushing back to do quotes or whatever. I can spend a bit more time on the phone with someone, or, you know, we can do a bit more planning and we can have a few more discussions. We definitely have a little more time on our hands that way. But as I say, I can't put them. I would like to think it's made us more profitable.
Yeah, it's like a hard one to put your finger on and get those actual tangible results. But
yeah, but it's allowed us to do things like you just showed me how to work out the cost of sales. I mean, like
yeah,
that's massive going forward. You know, if I need to do proper job costing, I can, and then
yeah,
I can see, oh well, actually, maybe sending 4 crew vans is a bit excessive to this. You know,
yeah,
we only need 2 crews, and that kind of thing is what's going to help us later down the line. I just
yeah,
need to work out, make sure I'm using those things, because you have the correct data has to go in to get the correct data out.
yeah, yeah,
Just need to sit down and take a bit of time going over that
yeah,
again.
yeah. And that's all so before the call I showed Margaret our cost and profit calculator, and that one we always recommend, especially for the big job that you were talking about you do every year. Put those
Yeah,
costs in as they're happening, or just after. So then when you go to do that job again next year, you have that data to look back on, and you might be like, I don't
yeah,
know, the access was bad, so it actually meant it took us 10 hours longer than it should have because it took us so long to drive down to the site, or whatever it might be. And then every
yeah,
year you can just use that data to hopefully make your margins slightly better.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, last question. If another rental business was thinking about having a demo or thinking about joining Marquee Tech, what would be your advice to them? What would you tell them?
I would say absolutely go for it.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Game changer, complete game changer. I know there is a competitor of ours that isn't far from us, and he came to visit us last week actually to have a look at the big orangery structure, and we were chatting through Marquee Tech and stuff. And like us, it's the quoting process, it's the
Yeah.
instant kind of feedback to the customer. There's your quote, let's go. They also use it and they also really like it. And honestly, I'm not going back to filling out forms and spreadsheets and email. I'm not doing that. I'm in for that now.
Yeah.
So go for it.
I remember when before we were doing Marquee Tech, like 10 plus years ago, when we had a rental business, and you build a quote on a spreadsheet and then someone wants to change it, and then you're just like, oh, now I need to duplicate the spreadsheet, I need to update the price, I then need to save that, and it's just so many steps for something that should just be like boom, instant.
Yeah, because you know the operations team don't know what version number of the quote I was on,
Yeah.
so we were doing it on Excel, saving it as a PDF with a version number at the end of it. They didn't know whether it was version 6 or 16, like they hadn't a clue. So if I hadn't uploaded it onto our then dashboard, they didn't know that there was
Yeah.
5 generators to go. It all got very messy. So if anybody is sitting on the fence and thinking about it, just go for it. I mean, we have an obscene amount of kit here, as you know, from our uploads and stuff. Yes, it is like there's a bit of time involved in getting it right, but once you have it done, it just helps you to fly on. I mean, have everything uploaded, have it done right the first time, and off you go. You'll not look back.
Awesome. Okay, I think that is all our questions. So thanks again, Margaret, for jumping on the
Right,
call.
thank
Great.
you. Thanks.
Awesome.